welcome to our latest edition of To Debate, our podcast of debates. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Dirk, and I'm looking at as usual, very relaxed Sebastian. But I assume you're very prepared for our debate today.
Well, absolutely. We have a virtual coin, since considering today's debate, the motion is we should get rid of cash. So we're not going to use a real coin to decide who's for or against. We're going to use a virtual coin. Otherwise, Dirk, you would have already won the debate.
Yeah, and hey, we should get rid of cash. I'm getting rid of cash very easily on an ongoing basis. So if you happy to help.
I'm willing to collect funds as well. It's fine.
And by the flip of a coin, we decided this time you not only go first, you're also for the motion. We should get rid of cash. And let's start whenever you're ready.
Okay, let's do this. Sebastian goes first and argues for the motion.
Let me ask you this question. When some food falls on the ground, do you eat it or not? Actually, you should. It's probably not that dirty, but the cash that you're carrying in your pocket, that your hands are touching, is disgusting. It's absolutely gross. There's tons of bacteria on it. Cash is archaic. It's been around for thousands of years. It's time for it to disappear. It's very small in value. I believe in the US, it's about 14% of the total value of transactions nowadays. So it's a tiny fraction of the money going around. And it's the trend regardless. People are using phones. Even people in emerging markets, they don't have bank accounts. They don't have credit cards, but they have phones. They have smartphones. And this is the trend going forward. People have devices with which they can have some form of payment, electronic payment, which, by the way, this is the obvious argument, also prevents easy money laundering, prevents the easiest way to fraud. That's not massive criminals. I'm talking about the small restaurant business or small businesses which, keep cash on the side and you're not really declaring the VAT on it or the income taxes. Oh, you know the trick. And the thing, this is at the detriment of the state, of the government. And again, in our previous debate, the government, the state is us. So it is at the detriment of all the citizens. So overall, there are a lot of arguments, and I'll get back into this. But also, and that's the interesting bit, it would save costs, not only in terms of not having to print the actual physical notes and coins, but also people forget they have cash stashed in their houses. There's billions, probably trillions around the planet of cash and coins being stuffed in different corners, and you just forget about it. So overall, it's a health hazard. It's the trend. Cash is disappearing. Just kill it right away or gradually, whatever you want to do. And we'll also prevent crime with it. Thank you very much for being in favor of the motion.
Now, it's Dirk's turn. Let's hear his argument.
So you don't like money, Sebastian? Fair enough. I just had a look into my wallet before we started the debate, and what I found were a number of foreign bills. I have some shekels in there, some Singapore money, and euros. And guess what? Being a European, the euro looks like an old friend to me. There are several symbols on there that remind me that I live in a society that, among other aspects, identifies as a European society. That means a certain set of values, that means a certain set of experiences, it means history. Other nations feel the same about their cash. It's not only a way to buy something, it's also a symbol of identity. It transports history, pride, and shared beliefs. That is why our bills are pieces of art, really. So it's not just a paper with a number on it that is very securely printed. It is much more than that. But even if we push that aside, getting rid of cash is simply impractical and has consequences you cannot really desire. For instance, is cash also a means to distribute control over a nation's wealth? For better or worse, you said 14%. No one can tell you who you give that money to. No one can control where that money flows to. And that means essentially you have a certain level of freedom that can be taken away if the money is taken away. And finally, it's low tech. You mentioned the smartphones. Yes, credit card, very convenient too. But you know what? My bills never ran out of battery. My smartphone did. My bills never depend on having a bank account or a certain system in place or reception. So no, I'm against the vision of a cash-free society because it's impractical and it's not worth the price.
Next up, Sebastian. Let's hear his rebuttal.
I am smiling because you're typically German. It's funny how it often comes about actually where we come from, because as you undoubtedly know, cash is still quite prevalent in Germany. It's funny that you say it's low tech. It's not the case anymore. You have holograms or whatever like kind of things to make sure that you can't create notes which are not the real original ones. And you say, we don't need the battery. Fair enough. But then you can have different types of devices which may or may not require batteries. This is just going to be solved in one way or another. You have solar power, whatever it is. I'm still wondering what kind of business you want to do, which you're worried that the government can control or not. If you can give me one example of a kind of business that you want to operate, which should not be allowed to be checked by a financial authority, then please let me know. But apart from money laundering or something which is shady, I would be very, very doubtful. Now, you talk about identity and the fact that there is a symbol on the banknote. When was the last time you actually checked the symbol? I have not checked the symbol for a long, long time. And it's funny because one of my arguments was exactly on this. Let's at least get rid of cash to have no longer a debate on which face has to be on the banknote. You only have like 5 or 6 or 10 banknotes and a few coins. And it's always a massive debate in each country. Who should be represented there? And then people are upset, and the colors and what have you. Come on, this is like an old-fashioned debate. Your identity is not defined by the cash that you carry in your pocket. It's maybe defined by the bacteria you're carrying in your pocket, because the banknotes is probably a massive health hazard for children, for people with disabilities or illnesses. I don't know what your cash is carrying around. Now, I don't need to be radical either. We don't have to get rid of cash right away. Like in India, at the end of last year, the Prime Minister has decided to get rid of the larger banknotes, which was representing 86%, if I'm not mistaken, of the value of the cash going around. And India is a massive cash-based society. And that was very sudden. So I'm not recommending to be completely radical. You can be gradual depending on the kind of society you live in terms of getting rid of cash to solve all the issues I was mentioning. But there's also one key advantage which I have not mentioned yet, and this is the following. When governments need to instill negative interest rates, as we know, we're in a period of time, in a time when there's deflation or very low inflation, and governments need to be able to regulate and need to encourage people to spend. If you allow cash, then people are going to run to the banks and take the cash out of the banks to store it, because otherwise, by having a negative interest rate, the cash will lose value. But this is the precise point. The point is for the governments to encourage you to spend it, not to keep it in your bank account or to take it away from the bank. So indeed, you're saying it's not good for the government to control, but this is also the way for a country to remain stable from an economic standpoint. Otherwise, you have something like Greece, people running to the banks. You have to stop banks from distributing money, and it goes just worse and worse. So yes, there's many practical and macroeconomic reasons for why cash should be abolished.
And now on to Dirk. Let's hear it.
You want to hear an example of business you don't want to have the government controlling. What I mean is having maybe not control, but complete knowledge over. So we talked about the right of governments to control privacy in our last debate. Well, getting rid of cash basically means saying, to hell with privacy. Who needs privacy? Because once you got rid of cash, everything you do with your money is tracked, and it's tracked today already. There are no regulations to protect you from that in place whatsoever. Practically all governments track electronic cash to the detail level. And that means that is something that you can analyze very deeply. And there are famous cases out there. For instance, there was that lady, her name was Janet Vertesi, I believe. I'm not sure how to pronounce her second name correctly. She was a teenager and she went to a store buying several things, afterwards receiving, advertisements for women who are pregnant. And her father sued Walmart in that case and lost because guess what? She was pregnant. And that was the beauty of big data combined with the beauty of electronic cash. So what I'm saying is you may want to have legitimate and perfectly legal interest in buying things without being watched while you buy it. May it be something shady as pornography, but also maybe buying stuff that through the magic of big data gives away that you're a homosexual, have a disease you don't want to disclose, be pregnant, what have you. And that is one of the reasons why I would say we should continue to have cash as a means of transactional business that's not as easy observed as electronic cash would be. And that brings me to the second thing. Most countries that discuss removing cash do so because they believe that's helping to get rid of money laundering and black markets. In reality, we don't even manage to get rid of black markets in high security prisons. And they don't have money there and are very tightly controlled and still have black markets. So how do we really assume that we can get rid just because we have electronic cash? I think the bad guys will find other ways and means. And last not least, there's a very practical reason. Yes, there are holograms. Yes, that all is high tech. But well, as I said, it works without sun. And everything that I can throw into a washing machine that comes out and still is intact afterwards, I consider low tech. My bills survive that treatment. Your smartphone doesn't. And if it does, bring it to me and I will try. We definitely should keep cash. May it be the smaller bills, but we definitely shouldn't get rid of it.
Final statements. Now it's Sebastian's turn.
That you would not be able to be tracked because you use cash, I think, is very naive. You leave fingerprints on it. There are numbers on the banknotes. And because it's actually becoming high tech, I think it's going to be just as easy to track what you do with your cash as any other means. So I think it's false debate whether you're going to be completely anonymous with a cash aspect. Now, you talk about bad guys. But I mentioned in my arguments, I'm not talking about the big criminals only. I'm talking about small restaurant business, the millions of little fraudsters in us, right? We want to go around and not declare all the taxes. This is everyone. This is the bulk of the fraud, not just the big bad guys in jails. It's not, TV or films that I'm talking about. And in conclusion, I will insist, how many people wash their hands after going to the loo? Well, unfortunately, not that many. It's maybe horrible to say, but admittedly, people don't wash their hands and then they use cash. So I am worried about the health aspect. It's a trend anyway. Cash will disappear. It is disappearing. And it will save money to everyone, to the state, which will be able to control the financial markets more easily. And also for people who forget their cash in their homes. So overall, yes, let's get rid of cash. It's in everyone's interest.
Dirk.
Yes, you may be able, by the sheer virtue of technological development, to track my money, but you usually cannot stop me from handing it over to you, for instance. If I find 2 billion on a bank account, I cannot transfer that to you. I'm not allowed. I have to go through legal loops. I have to pay extra taxes. I have to justify where the money comes from. All these things. But if I find cash and I want to give it to you, I can. That is what makes a cash-driven business that unique. You're free to hand over your cash to others. You're able to do that without being watched. And it is a very practical, low-tech, easy to use, available solution that we all know how to handle. And on top of that, it's a national symbol. There's a reason why we keep discussing it in Europe. If the euro really needs to be our currency, or we can flip back to our local currencies. So it's something where our heart is in too. So I insist we shouldn't get rid of it. So that's it. That was today's debate. Should we get rid of cash? Now it's up to you to decide. Please also consider leaving us a note. We always like to learn what other arguments we could have used. What are the arguments that won you over? Have you been convinced by Sebastian or by me? Let us know. We are pretty much everywhere where you can reach us. All the social channels, all the outlets, or on the webpage directly in the comment section of this blog post.
And don't forget to vote. in favor of
Now you were thinking.
the motion.
You weren't sure for a moment if they should vote in favor again.
Because I forget if I'm in favor or against. Or what was the motion?
So let me make sure that the audience gets this. You should go and vote against the motion.
For the motion. We should get rid of cash. Anyway, you choose what you vote for. Just go on the website and click the thumbs up or the thumbs down. It's easy, it's simple, and then we analyze the data. Thank you.
That's it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Please hurry up and find 2 billion in cash. I can't wait for you to give it to me.
Yeah, I can't anymore because they don't allow the big bills anymore.
Right. I'm not sure you can do this, actually. You have to declare it regardless whether it's cash or electronic. You would have to make a declaration of, like it's a gift.
Yeah, then I think if it's too much money, then it's money laundering. But the other thing is, if it's purely electronic, then people can stop you. Basically, you can you have as the one company as the company or the government that controls the technology, you have the power to exclude people from the transaction, and you don't have that power in case of cash. I cannot let's say we get rid of cash and the Swiss government decides that Sebastian has enough billions lying around in his house and he's better off just finding those billions, and he just is not allowed to receive any electronic cash while he's searching for it, then you're screwed.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I should find this cash in my house then. Might be in the cookie jar. Can't remember. Was it a real example, this Walmart thing? Yeah.
That Walmart thing? Yeah, that was a real life example. It made the news actually. So because it made the news because the father of that poor teenager sued the one thing that I'm not completely sure of if it's really Walmart, but it made the news because the father sued whatever store it was. And it turned out that, his daughter was lying to him and she was pregnant. and it was data analytics. They basically saw in the buying pattern that this is a typical pattern for women who are pregnant. And then they started advertising and sending them material, free samples and these kind of things. And there are others. So there have been, in the States, they are a little bit easygoing with regards to data privacy, especially towards companies. So there are cases where people had their credit score dumping because of certain purchases they were making. I mean, you can argue if you all of a sudden go every day to the local grocer and buy the 50-cent red wine, then you may have an alcohol problem. And if that is something that comes up and is correlated, then there are reactions possible. Your health insurance going up and your driver's license being suspended, whatever. I'm not sure if I want to do that.
Do you know how much cash is being used in Germany today in terms of share of transactions?
I have no idea. I know that we have an annoying habit of not accepting credit cards, because I'm with you. I find electronic cash very convenient. And I'm all for having that as the prime option. The only thing that I'm arguing is maybe we shouldn't get rid of paper money completely, because it has its use cases that are not covered by electronic money. Another use case, by the way, is having control over your spending. So there are plenty of people who lose control over electronic spending, and it's much easier to do it with real hands-on money.
It's true. It's true that when you actually hand out money, there's a psychological aspect to it that has been demonstrated, right? Which is much harder to do than rather just pressing a button or swiping your credit card, which is much less painful.
Of course, if I have like you lying money around everywhere, then maybe just Sorry, that's gonna be a theme from now on. gonna tease you on that.
I never said I had so many billions. I said people have around the planet. God, you misheard.
I'd like to be introduced to one of these people.
But it's true. People are hiding the money under the mattresses or whatever. It's like the amount of money that has been printed versus the money in circulation. I think there's a significant gap between the two. So people just stash it away. They just lose it. I don't know. It's just lying in the streets or under the mattress or in a cookie jar, and they just forget. They die. They move houses. It's we should find a way to create an app which allows you to detect where the cash is hidden.
Yeah, maybe I think modern cash, as you pointed out, technology is expanding and is developing. So with NFC, there is no reason why you shouldn't have a chip in each node, and you simply can do that. You can just scan the room. But on the other hand, I have a countermeasure to that. So basically, when I put my NFC tagged bill into my wallet, it can be a wallet that has some fiber around it, and all of a sudden you cannot detect it anymore. So it gives control to me instead of keeping the control in the system. That is my main argument, really.
But then what you forget is the wallet that you bought was produced in China. So the Chinese government has access to everything in your wallet, but not the Americans, because your wallet was printed in China. That's why.
That's very much
indeed.
how we handle our IoT things these days, right? So everyone has a cheap webcam and a cheap router made in China standing around, and I'm very sure the Chinese government, it never occurred to them that maybe the firmware. So you have trillions of dollars lying around in your house and you don't know where it is.
Yeah, I've lost it. I don't know where it is. I know I have at least $1 billion somewhere. And that's why I keep working, because I can't find it. Can someone please help me? I'll give a big reward. If you find $1 billion in coins, I'll give you 10%, 20%.
I give you half. Bring me Sebastian's $1 billion. You can keep half of it. Okay. And you're smiling, which means I expected all of that, and you have the perfect answers, and you're gonna try to kill me.
No, I did not necessarily expect. No, I did not. I didn't expect all of your arguments. It's fine.